Before we start tonight's program, a reminder that this episode will address various topics that we've discussed before. These may be sensitive to some of our viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. We remind you to please consult your doctor, your mental health professional, your outreach group, your sponsor or specialist before adopting any change to your dietary, physical, and/or mental health regime. If you're looking for options to go down with respect to mental health, contact SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, at 1-800-662-4357. The service is open 24/7, 365 days a year, and is a confidential, free information service for individuals and family members facing such stressors. Also, if you're feeling suicidal crisis or emotional distress and need to be put in touch with a crisis center, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Or go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. You can also text the word HOME to 741-741. Again, HOME to 741-741. Those resources are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year as well. And then something that has been part of this disclaimer as of the last 3 or 4 weeks, because it's something that has become part of my life, and this is a very important cause for sure. But the National MS Society is a collective of passionate individuals who want to do something about multiple sclerosis now, to move together towards a world free of MS. MS stops people from moving, but the National MS Society exists to make sure that MS doesn't. To contact the National MS Society, please call 1-800-344-4867. Again, 1-800-344-4867. Or go to their webpage at nationalmssociety.org. And on that, let's begin. Tonight, we're going to talk about one key phrase that was basically introduced to me in a TED Talk when I had an epiphany. And that phrase is that every moment is indeed a gift. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the law of attraction. And we'll talk about gratefulness. We'll talk about all of that, because this is the Venture Forward. Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome to the Venture Forward. My name is John Venturini. I'm a recovering addict of overeating, alcoholism, and compulsive gambling. And it's a pleasure to see you this evening. Tonight, we're going to talk about something a little bit different, as a lot of the topics in Season 2 have been. And tonight, we're going to talk about the law of attraction and gratefulness, something that has been resonant in this journey thus far. And we're going to talk about when did this come to me, but moreover, how this has became something that is really steadfast in doing what I'm doing. whether it's a question of the weight loss, or a question of sobriety, or a question of not gambling ever again, I resonate back to gratefulness. I resonate back to the fact that every single moment is indeed a gift. And we'll talk more about that phrase as far as when I heard that the first time. But then moreover, the other sort of assignment I was given in that of finding out more about the law of attraction. And the two go hand in hand. But before we get started, I want to say hello to everybody who's on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch this wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, whatever it may be. We start off with Sarah. Hey, Sarah, how are you? Hope you're doing well. LT, recovering addict, great program he runs over there. Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays on Recovering Addict. He's on YouTube and Facebook. Take a look out for him for sure. Jamie, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're... It's this winter doesn't know what it wants to be. And, you know, shoveling wasn't as hard as it was 2 weeks ago, but I get a funny feeling that we're not done with the snow yet. Jeanette, howdy. How are you? Hope you're doing okay. Mo, hope you're having a great afternoon over by you. Lauren, you too. Hope you're doing well. Jane, good evening to you. Hope you're having a wonderful evening. Hope you're doing well over by you for sure. Yeah, Jeanette. Law of attraction. It's something where we seem to forget the sort of hallmarks of what that is. That, in essence, we have the ability of manifesting anything, right? Because the mind can definitely be that sort of transportation to anything that's possible. And if we forget about that, all I have to do is remember what the last 2 years have been. Hey, hope you're doing well over there by you, copy. I'm trading. I'm keeping well. Hope you're keeping well as well. Try saying that 5 times fast. Jim, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Sean, the sober singer, joining us on Twitch. I'm glad you are here tonight. I'm glad you're using Twitch. Glad to see you. Hope you're doing well. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about how I became closer to this concept of the law of attraction, how I became more in tune what gratefulness is, and moreover, what the lack of gratefulness caused me in my life. 43, gonna be 44 in the summer. Yeah, it's a little later to understand that, but I'm thankful that I am understanding it. And we're going to talk about that. So, every moment is indeed a gift is actually something that was said by a Benedictine monk at a TED Talk. And I think is a very apropos title for this episode this evening. Because every moment, if you think about it, is indeed a gift. We are given so many moments in this life, and just to be presented with said moments. You can't really say that it's not a gift. It's something that has been given to you. Henceforth, it's a gift. But we'll talk about that. But first, let's talk about my story. This is a repeat of something I talked about on Tuesday with the bankruptcy, but it is very, very important to go through these points once more. I have had addiction for a very long time. Addiction, as you know from this program and my story, has come from 3 different key addictions, 3 different vices. Whether it's a question of obesity through the overeating, in the sense that I've been tracking my food for the last 726 days, losing nearly 280 pounds, putting on some muscle, which I never thought I'd be doing that in a good long time. I'm very thankful for that. But I also know that if I didn't do something about it back in January of 2019, I wouldn't be in a good place. The alcoholism, the second thing we've talked about on this show. It's either through the social drinking or the everyday necessity that it ended up being because, again, addiction. And again, there was no place for me to fully vent things out that was going on around me. So the alcoholism stepped up. It was far from a casual stress reliever. And as of today, I'm 623 days sober. Then we talk about compulsive gambling. The thing that really has become knee deep in the whole story with the bankruptcy that we talked about on Tuesday. It was basically that sort of satisfaction and dopamine trip that gave me that sort of false sense of hope and promise. But then there was the addiction of just playing something over and over and over and over again because you're kind of drawn into that. As of today, 305 days not gambling. The obesity and alcoholism was due to going out a lot. It's about spending money you didn't have, and looking for great moments that was basically were causes for slight celebration, but was absolutely going out of my wallet and my bank account, hence the chapter 13. And also the compulsive gambling ended up with me giving away a fortune instead of, we go back to that word, satiation, with a win, even of that of a significant nature. Giving back way too much money and being audited. Some wins as much as 5 digits. And ended up going back because there was no satiation point. So this is the story I was dealing with. Now, granted, the sort of tactic of me addressing these things happened over time. The overeating, the weight, was chief number one. But the thing was, the mind was that sort of bedrock behind everything. Using the sort of format of, I gotta fix my weight, ended up being my rallying cry for a lot of things. Quite frankly, that was the reason why I became sober first and foremost. I then realized how bad and how much of a crutch it was in my life. So, one leads to another, leads to another, as with everything in this story, as with respect to co-addiction and codependency. So, I needed to find guidance. I needed to find a way to get through this. I needed to find a different way to think about these things. So how did I do that? The first thing I needed to do is to address all this was the mind. But we talked about journaling in the very early episodes of this show and how important that is. We talk about meditation and how important that is too. And also tracking my caloric intake and using a web app to go ahead and track every single calorie and gram of protein and gram of carbohydrates, yada, yada, yada. But it was more than that. It was more than refraining from the alcohol. It was more than having that bottom with the pictures of jalapeno cucumber margaritas and drinking scotch and having a bottle of scotch next to my coffee maker. Drinking wine like it was going out of style. It was more than refraining from that. It was more than addressing the toxicity that was in my life. That talks to the codependency. That talks to the co-addiction. That talks about the other things that kind of resonated out in the landscape in order for me to start fixing these things. It was more than seeking internal family systems therapy. It's one thing to go to a therapist and say, I have these problems. It's another thing to say, you know what? Here's something that's tied to that idea of firefighting. Here's something that's tied to the boxes that, funny enough, are getting opened all at the same time, which is a nightmare. Instead of opening one thing at a time, handling it, and closing it. It was the realization of a few things I learned early on in this journey. But the thing is, there needed to be something a little bit more than that. And before I tell you what that is, let's go to some comments. So we're talking about The Secret. Jeanette has the book. Copy mentioned, I tried The Secret before. It's a bit of an overkill, but I do believe you create your own luck. We will talk about exactly what that is in a minute or two. Lauren says, I'm really interested in how this idea has helped people. I've always been skeptical. Yeah, there's some people that are skeptical about it, but then there are some people that are truly believers in it. And I'll explain why I'm a believer, whether we have the gift or not. Yeah, that's something that happens over time. Michelle with a heart and a Canadian flag. Well, I hope you're doing well north of the border. Jamie says, copy training, I can second that, but did enjoy watching The Secret. It is a really great documentary. Basically, I found it on Netflix. It didn't take long at all to get through it, but it really opened my eyes to a lot of things, especially at a time where I was still trying to figure out what was going on, what I'm trying to do, and how this all comes together. Amanda with some eyes. Hope you're doing well. How you doing? Hey, Marilyn. Hope you're having a great afternoon. Copy says, true, Jamie, best to keep level-headed and take the best of it, everything in moderation. Yeah, and the thing is, that's true about any sort of self-help book or workshop that you do. Not everything is going to resonate or be apropos to the situations you're in. We take nuggets from it. It's almost like, and I hate likening it to this term, but it's like writing a thesis or a dissertation. You're not going to take everything as gospel when you're trying to come up with a decision for yourself, when you're coming up with what your modus operandi is going to be. That's a really good point, Copy. But what I find is with both the gratefulness and the idea of being the idea of manifesting things absolutely resonated. And there's some coincidences that I would say, you know what? There's a draw there. Sean says, an entire mindset change, 100%. Yeah, this has absolutely been an entire mindset change. It's been a change of my body, a change of my habits, change of ways I think about things. It's not perfect yet. There are times where I'm like kicking myself over things that have happened, but I've gotten better about it. And that's just being truly honest. You know, you spend a long time doing these things. To pull back is one thing. To see the weight come off is another thing. To be cognizant of the 1-year chip that's in your pocket and you're looking for the 2-year chip soon. For the tracking food, for the sobriety. Looking for that 1-year chip for the compulsive gambling. And being free from that. I know it's something like, oh, you carry chips with you, but the chips mean everything. The chips have a lot of meaning behind it as far as the journey that got me there. So it's something I look to. Leanne says, my therapist is learning more about IFS therapy. The little bits I've done have been overwhelming. It is. It absolutely is. That is more of a therapy that basically lends itself to the fact that things tied to other things tied to other things. Those boxes that get opened all at the same time, they're connected, but they all don't need to be open at the same time now, do they? Jamie says, I agree. Take what you need and leave the rest. Yeah, something about everything that we deal with. If we take on everything, we're going to get overwhelmed. We're going to end up doing things horribly if our frame is not strong. So, good point. Hey, Ingy, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Jamie also says, the chips are good to have. I agree. I keep some in my car and some at home. Good reminder on bad days. Something to hold in your hand, too. Yeah. They're in my pocket. I keep them in my pocket next to my phone all the time. No matter where I am, if I travel, when I travel again, they come with me. They absolutely do. And I can't forget about this journey. The good, the bad, and the meh. Things that are in between. Merck says, good evening, everybody. Good to see you, John. Good to see you, Merck. Hope you're doing well. Let's talk about more about this story. So we know the however, but on a day in the summer of 19, I had an awakening. And it was a sort of thing where I was sitting in a hotel room trying to figure out what has transpired the months prior. There are some things I've talked to already on the show. There are some things I haven't talked about yet on this show. I will at some point. But it's all part of that realization that came by. A lot of things were realized in the sense that there are a lot of things that I have learned, but I also knew that there were a lot of things that were about to be taught. In that of the law of attraction, but also gratefulness. So at 11:11, some of you know the significance of that number, but we'll talk about that in a second. A dear friend of mine told me to watch The Secret and a TED Talk from Brother David Steindl-Rast, the TED Talk from 2013, I believe. Short TED Talk, as all of them are, about 14, 15 minutes. Good investment indeed. Really great opinion, and I, for one reason or another, cannot show that, but do a search for it and watch it. I'm sure you're going to find that it's 14, 15 minutes well spent. I'll talk about the highlights to that in the next few minutes, but definitely listen to him talk. I learned truly what the law of attraction is and how to gain happiness through gratefulness. And the thing is, if I didn't have that sort of eye-opening event, if I didn't have that sort of, well, I'm sitting down on a bed in Chicago trying to make sense of a lot of things that have transpired the last 7 months. If that wasn't going to open my eyes by the advice of watching this and then taking copious notes, I don't know what did. But boy, was I really thankful for it. And boy, has that been the sort of thing I resonate to now. There are some people that find it very hard to believe about the law of attraction. There are some people that have, as brought up earlier in this episode even, that they don't believe that it's a thing. It's a thing. If it wasn't a thing, I wouldn't be down 280 pounds right now. If it wasn't a thing, I wouldn't be sober right now. I truly think that has a lot to do with that. Because I manifested a world where I needed to remove the roadblocks that stood in my way. Instead of being a 480-pound gentleman waddling in the middle of an airport, not barely walking 5 to 10 feet and needing to sit down every minute, every second, and sweating on the coldest of days, something had to happen. I believe there's a lot to that, and manifesting good. But the thing is, you got to be careful what you manifest. You got to be careful about what you think about. And that is also very evident in The Secret. Let's talk about 11:11 for a second. Some of you might have a chuckle about that. Some of you I watch on social media, YouTube, Facebook, or whatnot, and there might be room to put in a super chat or some sort of donation, and I always put in 11:11. The number 11 is a master number. It signifies intuition, insight, enlightenment. It ties back to that event in July of 19. Didn't really want to say at the time, every time I put in 11:11, but that's why I do it. The number 11 is very important to me. One of my favorite hockey players wore 11, now Mark Messier. But the number 11 is more of a very deep, enlightening, spiritually awakening number. And when 11:11 comes up on the clock, when something happens that happens in double 11s or in 11s, it's usually a sign from the universe. I know that sounds a little new age for this program. I get it. But those numbers came up so many times in 19 as I was starting to go down this road. So this is why I resonate to it. This is why my eyes are open to it. This is why things like the law of attraction, talks on gratefulness, are things that I'm talking about on this very episode. And moreover, I'm going to be talking about something next week that's going to be the next step forward from this, in the sense of something we all are holding some onus on, in that of transparency. Without transparency, I wouldn't be able to do this live stream. Without transparency, I wouldn't be able to complete a book. It's because of all these things, all these enlightening moments, the fact that I was thinking these things, is why we are closer to it. I'll go back to some comments real quick, and then we're going to continue. Michelle says, I saw The Secret documentary. Is a really good watch. I definitely recommend it, for sure. Jeanette says, the universe gives back to you what you put out. If you are angry and sad all the time, you will attract sadness and angry situations. And if you are happy and grateful, you will receive happy things. I got a corollary to that, Jeanette. If you surround yourself with those sort of elements as well, whether it's the people or the places or the things, and our frame is not strong enough, that will have a funny way of working against us as well. We talk about carrying a strong frame. We talk about being strong with yourself, keeping your love, or building your love inside, respecting yourself, so we could share that with others. That's what that means. But we have to be careful of the things that are around us. So yes, absolutely. I'll bring up the comment again, because angriness and sadness brings on other angriness and sadness. Vitriol will bring in other vitriol. There's a comment I can make about, I'm not going to, about, I'll say it, because of the last 4 years, yeah, vitriol is horrible. Vitriol is something that the world needs less of it. And if there's anything I can do to promote not having that sort of vitreous sort of commentary, that sort of vitreous sort of feeling, sure as heck I do. It serves nobody. It serves absolutely no one. Jamie says, I love TED Talks. Could go in a loophole, so you have to be careful. Yeah, I can watch many different TED Talks and spend hours upon hours. Or like 2 or 3 hours of TED Talks I watched that day. The most important one was the gratefulness one. Jamie also says, if my mouse would behave, there we go. Yes, Jeanette, I can agree to that. Perhaps maybe we could discuss opinions about outliers. By that I mean happy people who always seem to draw the short straw. Things happen for a reason, but we also have to remain steadfast in ourselves and know that we're doing the right thing, because eventually incredible things happen. And here's the other thing. It may not be obvious, but incredible things do happen all the time. Every moment is indeed a gift. Jamie says, being sober has allowed me to live in 5 dimensions, JB. Yep. I like to call it being on a multi-level sort of existence. But yeah, 5 dimensions, multi-levels, all of it. Ingy says, I saw 11:11 this morning and said a little wish. Yeah. There is something I do every first day of the month. Some of you know it. With that of the rabbit. But I also say something else when the clock turns 12. And it's in the deck, but I say I am love, I am loved, I am abundant. Because the thing is, we are love, and we are loved, and we are abundant. Lauren says, I grew up thinking every time it was the same hour and minute you made a wish. So I made a lot of wishes. Lauren, I hope your wishes came true. To have something like that is so important. It's the thing that holds us. Jeanette says, when I draw a short straw, I am still grateful, and I figure there was something or some reason why it was not supposed to be that way. I never knew, per se, an accident were to happen if it happened. Yes, things happen for a reason. The universe is a very vast place. The universe works in ways that we will not know at the moment, we will not know down the road, but somewhere along the way, there will be a reason or an eye-opening situation that makes us understand why it ended up that way. So, thank you for sharing that, Jeanette. Lauren says, the way I say that same sentiment is from Joseph Campbell. Think thine enemies, for they are the instruments of your destiny. Yes. Thank thine enemies, but also thank thine heroes. Thank everybody around you that you have a thought on, or you basically spend any time cognitively thinking about, because they all end up being part of the story. They all do. Sean says, holding on to resentments will take you down. Yeah, big time. I gotta be very careful. We all have to be very careful for sure. LT says, need 6 more likes. Yes, like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate it. Jamie says, yes, always good to have gratitude, especially in our hardest moments. And boy, haven't we seen a ton of them lately. The last year and change. A tech question real quick. LT says, are you using a different camera? Yes, I am. I'm using a different camera on top of my monitor. I'd like to thank the person that gave me the camera and that of Elo. So thank you for sending me a camera. It's shedding off my internal camera has helped with the performance of this fine presentation. So yes, I am. Sean says, when you say that, Jamie, it made me think of the plot of Spider-Man 2 with Toby. Bad things happening to a good person for 2 hours. Yeah. You could also say the same thing about Godfather 3. And Lauren says it was always Mary Ryan Blackstone, so no, but I'm okay with that. Thank you, LT. I appreciate that. All right, let's go back to the thoughts about manifesting things, gratefulness, all of that. So we talk about 1111. We talk about how that has been basically a trademark, but also numbers that I have basically rallied around. It's something I truly believe in, because when things happen at that time, when the universe is trying to say, hey, John, pay attention to that, there's a reason. I'm not here to explain the universe. All I know is the universe is very fast. So what are the main teachings of The Secret? Well, we talk about the law of attraction. In other words, if you think about it, whether good, whether bad, or I'll use a Paul Burke term for a second, whether meh, something in between, it will be attracted to you. If you think about it, you're spinning the gears upstairs. You're spinning process on it. So there is a law of attraction there. Everything starts with your thinking. It could be something as basic as, what am I going to wear today? It could be something as most complex to, maybe it's time I finish that book. Or it could be something anywhere in between, or anything outside of that realm. But everything starts with your thinking. What you focus on, you attract. It's true. And you got to be careful about how you phrase it. Don't know and no doesn't count. You think about it, whether it's something I don't want. Oh, don't know. Don't think about it. Think about the things you do want. And don't even think about the things you don't want. If you put your mindset into that way of thinking, you're putting yourself in a place where you can see things happening. You can visualize things happening. You have to pay attention to your feelings. You can't ignore them. That's where the journaling comes in, right? Being able to talk about what you're feeling, being able to talk about the things that you're doing to get to the next level, to get past something. You got to pay attention to that. And then the next thing is something that's up on my board, in that of asking, believing, and receiving. If you're not receiving what you want, sometimes you just have to ask, and you have to believe that you will have it. Ask, believe, receive. Don't worry about how. That's not part of the question right now. Just know what you want. Go out and get what you want in this life just by asking for it and believing in it. Visualize and create your day in advance. Definitely one of the exercises I do with journaling. It's more than what I do for work. It's more than other things I have to get done, especially with the treasure trove of things that have come my way. Visualizing and creating your day in advance gives you a chance to form a picture. Doesn't have to take a long time to do so, but you should go through doing it. Be grateful. Always be grateful. It's something that comes out of that TED Talk. You have to be grateful. You don't resist and you don't compete. Believe in yourself, right? That love and strength starts with you. Everything else doesn't matter in that. Believe in what you believe in what you love, and share it. Do what you love and follow your bliss. Being able to identify the things that you do love forms that sort of good feeling over you. Part of those thoughts that came over me the time I was watching both The Secret and the TED Talk that we were talking of was realizing these things, starting to form that picture, putting pen to paper, writing plenty of notes, but also envisioning what I want to do, envisioning what the next step was. This is far from me taking any sort of live streaming workshop. This is far from me joining any of the recovery groups, because then we weren't dealing with what we were dealing with in 2020. This is the middle of 2019. But I knew that there was a place for me to tell my story, especially if I'm going to see this all the way and I stay true to myself. Because if I stay true to myself, I know there are others that I could stay true to as well. There's a story, and there is a lot of love in that story. Why not share it? Which goes to the final point that I mentioned before. I am love. I am loved. I am abundant. It's something I say to myself at least on the first day of every month, but I say it a lot. Because if I say it, even in the darkest of days, I start feeling it. I am love. I am loved. I am abundant. Some comments before I continue. Let's see. Jamie says, I stepped away for a second, so if you mention it, sorry, but the check for $1 million to cash when he was famous. Yeah. Writing a check, a manifestation check? Yeah. I mean, I think the check concept is basically symbolism for other things we want in life. If there are things that you want, start visualizing it. It may take many thoughts to get there. It may take plenty of time to get there. But you owe it to yourself to do that. He is a cool guy, for sure. Sarah says, it's good timing for me to hear this. How always messes me up. Sometimes, just do it. Check that. All the time, just do it. Don't worry about the how. If you believe in something, you ask, you believe, you receive. The how is not part of the process. The how will work itself out. But I'm glad you said that. Lauren says, I did come in skeptical, to be fair, but the similarities with Joseph Campbell, who changed my life, are really fascinating. Yeah. These sort of teaching points have been dissected in many different forms, many different sort of books, many different sort of speakers, many different authors. But they remain resonant. There's a lot of truth to this. So we talk about the main teachings of The Secret. I guess the next thing is the law of attraction. Basically coming up with a word cloud of the concepts of the law of attraction. It's basically focus, it's intention, and it's receiving it. But there are a lot of things that go off of that. There's lots of feeling. Certainly health is part of it. In my case, health was definitely part of it. And the thing about being skeptical of the creation of the things that you want to form as far as your conquest and whatnot, yes. But you have to believe it, and you have to ask for it in order for you to receive it. More times than not, we talk about love. Whether it's the absence of love, or needing to find love, or needing to find a support net. Especially when you decide to take on a lot of things. A lot of you that are watching tonight have become part of my support net, and I thank all of you. I'm very grateful for all of you. The consciousness is key too. The fact that, some of these thoughts start in our subconsciousness, but they sort of ruminate to our consciousness. And we talked about the different dimensions. Thank you, Jamie. About things existing on multiple levels. Yeah, has a lot to do with it. And when we talk about wealth, it's not necessarily financial wealth. Abundance is not necessarily a financial statement. Abundance could be the abundance of love. It could be the abundance of having things in your life that you never thought you would ever have, but things that make you complete. One of the things my IFS therapist told me back in the day, things that make my pot full. Because there are plenty of things we do in this life, especially when we're not in a good place, that empties our pot or fills it up with such bad things. If we could fill our pot up with such love, with such respect, with such guidance, we're definitely leading ourselves down a better path. That's basically the law of attraction. There's a lot of other concepts to that, and certainly definitely see The Secret because it is very eye-opening. I will say this. Also, get a pen and paper or type it out. Just take some notes as you watch it because that's what I did. And I ended up rewinding a couple times to capture some key points. But it's something that really changed my life, for sure. Let's talk about Brother David Steindl-Rast in the sense that he provided a TED Talk back in 2013 that was very eye-opening because in addition to manifesting, in addition to the law of attraction, the other thing I didn't have was an overall sense of gratefulness. When we were talking about my story earlier in the episode, we were talking about how there was no satiation point. And it's because there was no gratefulness. The next thing I was thinking about was hitting the button on a video poker machine. The next thing I was thinking about is, well, that was a great dinner. Now let me find another place to get dinner or a large dessert or whatever. There was no satiation. The alcohol? No, it wasn't one pitcher of jalapeno cucumber margaritas. It was 2 pitchers. And afterwards, there was more drinking going on afterwards. Lots of stuff on top of that. No satiation. No happy medium. What Brother David Steindl-Rast says is that every moment is a given moment. Every moment is a gift. We have not bought it. We have not earned it. It is simply given to us. And with this moment is given to us opportunity. Every moment is indeed a gift. The universe is a very vast place because we are full of these moments. They may not be the greatest moments. They may not be the worst moments. They might be a lot of moments in between. But we are given plenty of moments for us to discern things off of. And that TED Talk was very eye-opening for that, especially when, hey, John, You have to lose this weight. Hey, John, drinking is not going to help you lose this weight. And we didn't even think about the gambling at that point in July of 19. That became a story later on. But gratefulness. You have to be grateful for it. I was grateful for that moment. Sitting on a bed in a hotel in Chicago, watching both The Secret and this TED Talk. Some comments before I continue. Sarah says, "I love the word cloud idea." Yeah, it was something I do for my main job in the sense of forming word clouds. But I found that it's something I didn't form myself. But a lot of the keywords that are in there definitely talk to the law of attraction. Word clouding is a really great practice. If you find that you have a lot of information flying at you and it is too cumbersome to come up with sentences upon sentences upon sentences, or too many subjects, predicates, direct objects, and you rather just piece it together, it's the best way to go. Lauren says, like the same message in a different language. I think it comes to people in the way they can receive it, always. The thing is, you can give someone a message, but I always like to think I try to give the message in a way that many people can understand. And it's not a question of the presenter. It's a question of whether or not that message is going to resonate with the audience. Sarah says, "I always feel like I have to earn it." Yeah, we all have to earn it. But the thing is, there's also a sense of victory and success when we do get there. I think it gets lost upon us if it just landed in our lap. Something can land in your lap. What you do with it afterwards is up to you. And if you're not grateful and you don't have satiation, you know what happens to that. Sean says, "I think our most valuable asset is time. Who, what, and how we spend it." Yeah. We talk about currency in the sense of dollars and cents, but time is a massive currency. And some of the best currency we can ever give our friends, our family, our loved ones, our colleagues, yada, yada, is the time we give them. Because there is a profound currency to time. So, a couple of key thoughts in the sense that he talks about this idea of stopping, looking, and going. And brief note to everybody, my apologies if this ends up being another eye exam. But this is important. So he says it like this: moment by moment, we must be grateful yet aware. And it goes to 3 steps: stopping, looking, and going. As far as stopping, we rush through life. Everything is go, 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 rush, rush, rush. We don't stop. And if we don't stop, we miss opportunities because we don't stop. He tells a story about returning home from spending time in a remote part of Africa where there was no electricity, no water. At home, he was overwhelmed with gratitude every time he turned on a faucet or clicked on a light. And when he came home and reassimilated, he left stickers on the tap and switch to remind himself to be grateful for the resources he has back home, because there was a period of time where he didn't have those resources. Having a moment to stop and realizing that there are worlds out there that are not as fortunate as worlds that you're in, at least on that sort of level, is one thing. How the other side of that, though, is there are things that world may provide us that we would never see in this world. Things for us to be very thankful and grateful for. It's all a matter of what you're trying to look for and what your eyes are open to. And some of these things, quite frankly, are not obvious. But it's always in the essence of stopping. We have to stop first and foremost. We have to look. He then talks about looking. We must use all of our senses to basically soak in the wonderful richness that life has given us. I love how that's phrased. Wonderful richness. Because this moment, these set of moments, they're unique. They're unique because they're given to you. They might be given to others, but that sort of combination, that sort of permutation of moments is huge. The permutation of moments that happened on that day in July of 19, life-changing. But, again, it is an incredibly wonderful richness about it. He says, that is what life is about, to enjoy what is given to us, all of it. Good, bad, and in between. When we open our hearts to opportunities, opportunities invite us to do something. When we steadfast and say, you know what? I have to fix the things that are going on in my life because otherwise it's going to kill me. That's one thing. But the second thing is to be able to talk about it and being able to share this with you, whether it is the live stream or the book I'm set to complete once I start talking about the MS in there. And then going. We should do whatever life offers to us in that present moment. Sometimes that might be difficult, but we should go with it and do our best to enjoy every moment. There's no time to wait. If we wait, sometimes, hopefully there is some sort of thing in the back of your head that says maybe you should hold off, but even then, just do it. And don't ask about the how. Ask, believe, receive. That's what it's about. That's what it's definitely about. So, on a summer's day in July of 2019, I got more than what journaling and what meditation and what therapy was giving me. I got a lot of the in-betweens and I-dotting and T-crossing that had to happen in order for any of this to make sense. And certainly, you could tell that to some people and they will still remain skeptical. But if I told someone that I used to be 480 pounds, if I used to drink vast amounts of alcohol, if I spent every waking moment thinking about the casino and not, life, I don't think they would believe that either. Some comments. Sean says, preach, John. The risks, take risks and follow your heart. Yes. It's part of the journey, isn't it? If we don't take the risk, we'll have no idea what is going to be on the other side of it. Because that in itself, Sean, you could say it, is a gift. And Sue says, thank you for all. I'm grateful for this program. Sue, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for all of you that join me on the Venture Forward every Tuesday and Thursday night, and also for the VF Talks on Fridays. It's amazing to be able to share my story, but it's also, I'm really blessed to be able to share this insight that I've gained over this time and having a very deep conversation about these things. I know what we did this week, at least tonight, is a bit different than what we normally do. And talking about bankruptcy, when we've been talking about other things on Tuesday, that's a bit of a different situation now, isn't it? But we did it. We talked about it this week. And there will be more things to that. Next week, not the preview, but I'm going to preview. Next week, we're going to talk about transparency. We're going to talk about what is most important in that of being transparent as far as the catharticism of what it brings to you, but also the catharticism about what it produces for other people. I think that in itself gives us those eye-opening moments that we need. We absolutely need. Next week, we might have a speaker on MS. If not, then the week after. But next week, we're absolutely talking about the importance of transparency. And as how that's going to line up for the Tuesday versus Thursday, we'll make those decisions over the next couple of days. But keep an eye out to the channel, and all will be known sooner rather than later. Sarah says, in July 2019, where were you in the rest of your journey? Or was that where it started? That's a great question, Sarah. In July of 2019, I have been sober for 2 months. I've been dieting for about 5. So everything was getting started as far as the hard numbers of how much weight has been lost, but also refraining from alcohol. But there wasn't anything that was solid about that. There wasn't anything that was... There was definitely a life or death sort of situation about it. There was always the threat of peril about it. But there was no sort of mechanism to tell me that this is the right thing and this is why. And the fact that your mind is a lot more powerful than you would ever think. It's very easy to lose sense of that. It's very easy to lose faith in that. What's the most important person, place, or thing we can have faith in? Ourselves. Especially when we're trying to right the ship, trying to make sure the train's on the tracks. The most important person to have that love and respect and wisdom starts inside. It's putting that mask, that airplane mask, over your face first before you take care of everybody else in the row when the cabin pressure goes out. If we don't have that love for ourselves, if we don't have that respect for ourselves, it's very hard for us to share that love with others. I've had many debates about this. I still remain very steadfast in that. We must keep that love and respect inside first to grow it and then share it. Paul says, it's been a good show, my man. I've been getting destroyed while gaming, but enjoying your show. Well, I hope it turns around for you. Absolutely, Paul. And I'm glad you're here. Glad to see you tonight. Well, this afternoon. Sarah says, I don't believe you can have a healthy relationship of any kind without transparency. Absolutely. And that's what we're going to talk about next week. Whether it's the interpersonal relationships we have, whether it's any sort of relationship or any sort of commitment we have to any sort of person, place, or thing. Without transparency, there is a major problem, at least either on the surface or underneath it. We'll talk more about it next week for sure. And on that, I'm gonna tell you that tomorrow we have another episode of VF Talks at 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific, where we talk about anything and everything that is important to the Venture Forward community, and also may contain a certain cantankerous Triceratops who thinks he's a T-Rex. There might be a comment or two from him tomorrow. But nevertheless, he indeed is a gift, as much as everything else is. Sean also says, great show as always, John. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Sean. So on that, I'm going to tell you what I tell you at the end of every single Venture Forward. Stay safe, stay sane, stay strong, stay sober. You're worth it. I'll see you tomorrow night at 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific for VF Talks. Good night.